What we found out is that each one of us is a brain,
and an athlete,
and a basket case, a princess,
and a criminal.
Does that answer your question? Sincerely yours, The Breakfast Club.
The coming-of-age story is well-trodden ground now, from Jane Eyre to The Breakfast Club to Booksmart. We've seen protagonists throw off the shackles of youth and accept their passage into adulthood. In Teens of Denial, Will Toledo, the creative force behind Seat Headrest, gives us his own take on the genre in a semi-autobiographical concept album about his time in college. Toledo began writing rock albums in his bedroom, recording vocals in the back of his car, and burned through 9 releases on Bandcamp in 4 years. He was picked up by Matador Records in 2015 and soon released Teens of Style, a compilation of reworkings of some of the songs he had already self-released. Then, in 2016, he released Teens of Denial, his first album fully recorded in the studio. He embodies the character of Joe, who he describes as himself, but nastier. Like his creator, Joe attends the College of William and Mary and plays music, but unlike Toledo, he has fallen victim to alcohol and recreational drugs. The sampled intro to the album immediately sets the scene. It situates us both in a location and a time of life. A young person still trying to find their voice and place in the world.
What's up, guys? You are now listening to Seat Headrest.
In Fill in the Blank, the song that follows, we're also introduced to Joe the character, a young man full of self-loathing.
If I was split in two, I would just take my fist, so I can beat up the rest of me.
He feels judged by a society that is unable to accept or understand his struggles with mental illness.
You have no right to be depressed, you haven't tried hard enough to like it.
Joe quickly falls victim to a life defined by drugs and alcohol. However, it's not a life that suits his demeanour. In Vincent, we hear a stream of consciousness about his anxieties both within and outside a party.
Someone's getting lucky, someone's got the car, someone takes me away, someone make it all stop.
Joe's descent only worsens from here on out. Toledo tells us through song titles that the drugs are a destructive force and they lead to him being kicked out of school. What's most striking is that we're never shown Joe enjoying the life he sleepwalks into.
Last Friday I took acid and mushrooms, I did not transcend, I felt like a walking piece of shit. Should not have had that last.
It transpires that Joe is not taking the drugs because he wants to, simply because it's the done thing. He describes others at the party as teens of style, who act not in their self-interest, but to conform to their perceived image of how young people should act. In the end, neither the drugs he takes nor the acquaintances he keeps are able to satisfy him fully. Although he tries to supplement one with the other, neither are as fulfilling as they have been portrayed to him.
Drugs are better with friends are better with drugs are better with friends.
In Drunk Driver's Killer Whales, we see him starting to accept that this has driven him to a bad place and made him do stupid things.
I had become such a negative person, it was all just an act, it was all so easily stripped away.
He compares himself to the killer whale in the film Blackfish, a documentary that shows that a creature that is normally harmless to humans can turn destructive in an unnatural environment. He acknowledges,
"It doesn't have to be like this. It doesn't have to be like this."
Despite this realisation, his life continues to meander unsatisfactorily until we reach the Ballad of Costa Concordia, which forms the emotional crux of the album. Going back to the film analogy, this would be the point of crisis at the end of Act 2 that catapults us towards the denouement of Act 3. This is the point that Joe, at his lowest ebb, accepts his failings and his inability to cope with the life he was living. He references Dido's White Flag, a song about total surrender.
I won't go down with the ship. I will put my hands up and surrender.
before launching into a list of his personal failures.
How was I supposed to know how to use a tube amp? How was I supposed to know how to drive a van? How was I supposed to know how to ride a bike without hurting myself?
He compares himself to the Costa Concordia, a cruise boat that sank, killing 32 passengers after hitting an underwater rock on the first leg of its journey. It was claimed that the captain of the ship was drunk when it crashed.
How was I supposed to know how to steer this ship? How the hell was I supposed to steer this ship?
A 3-word chorus repeated 11 times reveals the depth of Joe's despair.
I give up. I give up.
It doesn't take him long to rebuild from his lowest ebb though. In Connect the Dots, Joe takes inspiration from Frank Sinatra, who famously did it his way. First, by turning his back on Tommy Dorsey to follow his own artistic path as a solo artist, and later by forming Reprise Records to release music under his own label. Similarly, Joe realises he does not have to follow the teens' style or rely on others to produce the music he wants, mirroring Toledo's decision to self-produce and self-release on Bandcamp when first starting out as an artist.
No one will want to be in your bed. You'll have to learn how to make it on your own. Spend a little time with your own head.
The song ends with a resounding rallying cry as Joe says goodbye to his teenage years and accepts his new identity as an adult and an artist. In the final track, Joe is at peace with his new life. While the rest of the album has been filled with noisy guitars, the outro is a simple acoustic ballad that focuses around 2 images plucked from the rest of the album. Firstly, Joe meets a horse. In Costa Concordia, Joe describes how he injured an innocent horse on his route to rock bottom.
A horse broke his back to get me here. I have his blood on my hands for no reason.
But now they regard each other peacefully as equals.
I saw a horse and it saw me. You know their skulls are so crazy, but they still can see.
The other image is of tourists in Williamsburg who come to see the colonial architecture. In Vincent, Joe seems disturbed by their presence in his hometown.
For the past year I've been living in a town that gets a lot of tourists. In the summer months they come and they stay for a couple of days. But hey, I'm living here every day.
However, now he accepts their presence and is placed among them as he purposefully heads back to the school he was kicked out of earlier in the album. Notice also how he's now able to ride a bike safely, another reference to his struggles in Costa Concordia. He has finally come of age and transitions into a new phase in his life.
I am a tourist attraction, biking down Dog Street.